Drug use on the SF-86 is always a hot topic, but what about quote-unquote legal drug use or misuse of drugs that aren't a controlled substance? Hi, this is Lindy Kaiser with ClearanceJobs.com. I got a question in email. Also saw the same question pop up on our thread asking about Guideline H, which is the drug use adjudicative guideline, and how it addresses controlled substance and misuse of substances on the question that it asks on the form. So it specifically references misuse of a controlled substance and prescription drugs indicated within that. So the question was, hey, what if I've maybe misused a prescription drug, but that is also available over the counter? They were talking about like a prescription dosage of ibuprofen or Aleve. Maybe I've used that product without a prescription. Anytime people start asking those kind of minutia questions, I generally assume that person is probably pretty reliable, pretty trustworthy, really has a strong desire to be honest. It's going to have a really hard time passing a polygraph because they remember every terrible thing they've ever done in their lives. So again, if this applies to you, the form is mostly interested in illegal drug use, which we just have to caveat also includes marijuana use because marijuana is still illegal at the federal level. If you have a habitual pattern of taking somebody's drugs, maybe your coworker, I used to work with a guy who had prescription grade ibuprofen at his desk all the time. I was still young when I worked with him, so I didn't need to use it. But now that I'm old and basically nothing but coffee and ibuprofen, I could totally see hopping up on some prescription strength ibuprofen that my coworker offered to me. It's a one-time, an occasional thing. That's not what the government is looking into. If you, I don't know, are doing that regularly and that person might say that, I wouldn't be afraid to list it on the form. It's not going to be an issue. It's not really what the government is after with that question around Guideline H and misuse of drugs. They are looking into, again, misuse of a controlled substance, more harder line drugs or even prescription drugs that are used off book. If you need ibuprofen and you're using a prescription dosage of ibuprofen without a prescription, you're probably fine. I don't think the form is asking you to list that, but I always have to caveat, consider your specific situation, your instance of use. I'm sure there's some way that someone could look at this topic that I'm not seeing from the question that's being asked and present it being an issue. But again, if you're talking about Aleve, ibuprofen, prescription strength dosages of things that you could actually take at the same dosage over the counter and you have misused those or used those without that prescription or taken those medications at a different time. I have tons of friends who have done this, like with back pain or other things you're prescribed at one point, you take it later. If you have not misused the drug, so used it just completely not what it is intended for, again, that is not really what the form is asking. So you're fine. You don't need to list that. You don't need to overthink that. You really need to think about, hey, is this a pattern of behavior? Is this a drug that I am misusing still today, off-label? And then just consider being proactive maybe. And if you need a prescription dosage of a medication and need to stop asking your coworker for theirs, maybe it's time to go do that and address that before you get that SF-86. But in general, keep taking ibuprofen, coffee, and scotch. The Army taught me nothing. Can you not solve most problems with that? I'm pretty sure that's the answer to all of life's ails and ills. That's not a prescription though. I'm not telling you to do that. That's just what I've been told. But for more on prescription drug use and your security clearance, what you can and can't take, and navigating the delightful world of filling out the SF-86 if you're a person who's overly honest, visit us over at ClearanceJobs.com.